Hello friends, welcome to Cloud Pedagogy and happy to see you again. Today we are going to discuss about EC2 metadata and user data. When your applications are more functional and versatile, like for example our student directory application, then why not start passing data to your instances during launch itself? EC2 metadata and user data are there to help for that. These features can provide critical information about your instances. And in this lab, you will learn how to use EC2 metadata and user data to get the most out of your EC2 instances. So what is metadata? Instance metadata is data about your instance that you can use to configure or manage the running instance. Instance metadata is divided into categories, for example, host name, events, and security groups, etc. When you already have a lot on your plate, you would consider automating setup processes, right? But how? That's where user data is helpful. User data is feature of EC2 instances that allows you to pass data to the instance during launch. This data lets you configure the instance or install software or packages using your computing tasks. This approach lets you quickly deploy an EC2 instance with the necessary software and configurations to host a website without the time-consuming manual setup tasks. User data is usually passed in the form of shell scripts. If you remember, we did the same thing in the last lab. Just to ease your mind, you are not built for HTTP request to retrieve instance metadata and user data. What a relief, right? AWS allows customers to access this data free of charge. So stay tuned and unlock your EC2 instance's full potential with this lab. To get started, let's follow the task. In the task 1, we are going to retrieve instance metadata. In the task 2, we are going to work around with the user data. So let's start with the task 1, retrieve instance metadata. First, we'll see how to retrieve the metadata in the EC2 terminal. Because your instance metadata is available from your running instance, you don't need to use the Amazon EC2 console or the AWS CLI. This can be helpful when you are writing scripts to run from your instance. For example, you can access the local IP address of your instance from instance metadata to manage a connection to an external application. So let's open local terminal in your desktop. Next, move to the folder where the .pem file is located. Change the .pem file to execute mode. On your EC2 console, locate student directory application instance which is in the running state. Click the connect to connect the EC2 instance. Select SSH tab and copy the example text. Now paste it in your local terminal. Enter S if it's asked for authorization. Doing so establishes a connection to your EC2 instance. We will begin by running a curl command to a special private IP address here. 169.254.169.254 is a special IP address that is within the range for linked local addresses, so this request will be picked up by AWS and the response will be customized for the EC2 instance making the request. If you receive 401 unauthorized access, it means that your instance is under IMDSV v2 version. We need to generate a token to retrieve the metadata. Execute the command as it's there in the screen to get the instance identity document of your instance. If successful, you will see tons of your instance's metadata categories such as instant ID, AMI ID, region, and more as shown here. Let's get an AMI ID of our instance. Similarly, you can retrieve EC2 metadata other categories by replacing AMI ID with instance ID, public IPv4, and so on. Here I am executing a command to get the instance public IP address. Now we'll look into how to retrieve the EC2 metadata in CLI tool. When curl command is unavailable, another way to retrieve metadata of an EC2 instance is via the EC2 metadata CLI tool. It comes with pre-installed in all Amazon AMI. Like curl, the EC2 metadata CLI tool lets you retrieve metadata that can be helpful when you are writing scripts to run from your instance. To see how the EC2 metadata CLI tool works, run here to retrieve all metadata associated with your EC2 instance. EC2 metadata all. Next, I am running the command to retrieve a specific piece of data such as AMI ID. To know more about EC2 metadata command and its available options, run the help command to display the help menu. Beautiful work. You have finished on how to look into EC2 metadata. In task 2, we are going to work around instance user data. In this task, you will inspect the Cloud Init logs to verify the steps in the user data scripts executed on the Amazon EC2 instance. You can use instance user data to customize your instances. When you launch an instance, you can store parameters or scripts as user data like we have done in Student Directory application. Any scripts in user data are run when you launch the instance. You can view user data as an instance attribute. You can also view user data from your instance through the instance metadata service, which is IMDS, as we have seen in the last task. Enter a command to retrieve user data from an instance. Or you can use EC2 metadata -d to get the user data. A request for user data returns the data as it is. If the instance doesn't have any user data, the request returns 404 not found. So let's see how to edit user data from console. To update the instance user data, you must first stop the instance. If the instance is running, you can view the user data, but you cannot modify it. To modify instance user data, open the Amazon EC2 console. In the navigation pane, choose the instances. Select the instance and choose instance state. Click on Stop Instance. If this option is disabled, either the instance is already stopped or its root device is an instance store volume. When prompted for confirmation, choose Stop. It can take a few minutes for the instance to stop. When the instance stops successfully, you are disconnected from EC2 even in your local terminal. With the instance still selected, choose Actions, Instance Settings, click on Edit User Data. Modify the user data as it is required and click Choose Save. You can see success message that the user data modified successfully. Now restart the instance. The new user data is visible on your instance after you start it. However, user data scripts are not run. After Cloud Init runs a user data script on the first boot of the EC2 instance, a state file is presumably written, so that Cloud Init won't run the script again on subsequent reboots. To view the log file, type the cat command in the terminal. Explore the log file to see the log entries generated for installing the user data script. Check user data in the terminal. So our user script is changed, but it's not actually applied when the EC2 instance is restarted. Even the student directory application stops after reboot. You may have to start it manually to make it work. Next, we are going to see where our application files are located. All our application files are stored in the root directory. I'm going to the root directory now. There they are. You can see our student app.zip file and student app folders are located here. You can navigate inside the folder to view or edit your files. Congratulations! You have nailed the lab by implementing your knowledge on EC2 metadata and user data. Hope to see you again in my next topic. Until then, take care.